the girls. Perth pull off a massive A-League W win to keep slender finals hopes alive. Glory fans get set to rally behind one of their own this weekend, and the NPL men's set for blast-off this weekend. Welcome to the only podcast with harder falls than Tesla stocks. This is the Far Post Perth, powered by ID Athletic. Visit idathletic.com, and of course Trio Homes. If you're looking to build, redesign or renovate, visit triohomes.com.au. Blayne Treadgold is my name. With me on this episode, to my left, Mr. James Renton. Welcome back, mate.
Thanks, Blayne.
And we've also got Jaxon Bassett.
Hello.
Jaxon, I want to pick a bone with you, mate.
What's that?
You got your prediction right on the weekend.
Yes, yeah, very happy with that.
We don't have any of that behaviour around here, mate. We don't get much right. All right, so
get him out.
It was a clean sheet and the Glory girls to win, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Is that basically what it was? You didn't pick the 3-0, did you?
No, I wasn't expecting the 3-0,
Okay.
but I got the clean sheet and got the win, and that's that's perfect.
There we go. Well, let's get straight into it because a little bit later on, we're going to be speaking to Kim Hawkins. She is the chair of the Glory Fans Representative Group. Do some great work and, of course, a little bit of a mouthpiece for the fans as far as getting things over the line with the club, expressing any concerns. So really looking forward to that chat a little bit later on. But James, kick us off with your good for the last week or so.
Not even fairly obvious, but the Glory women's team. You know, it's refreshing to have a Glory side that is playing well and importantly winning games, and for the Glory women to not only win but beat a pretty good opposition in Western United. Full credit to them. I thought that the way that we played when we needed to, because I think, look, you can look at the stats and you can go, oh, well, West United had lots of possession, therefore they were the better team. Well, Glory were a lot more effective in possession, I would argue. And I think, Sarah O'Donoghue, her creativity and her vision was
that ball
outstanding.
through to Kelly Brown.
I replied to someone on Twitter and I said, imagine if Adam Taggart had that sort of service, he'd be scoring 2-3 goals a game.
Yep.
But it was, again, that slide rule pass for Kelly Brown's first goal, I think we had a bit of an appetizer with that a few minutes beforehand where O'Donoghue tried beforehand to Kelly Brown. I thought Brown was excellent. Great to see Susan Fonsonkamp back.
Yes.
And on the score sheet also. Very important player, and obviously, we've missed her she's been out pretty much the whole year, hasn't she?
Yeah.
So great to have her back. And, finals is still mathematically a chance.
Just holding on by a slim hope. A big shout out to Stephen Peters and a few of the Glory girls who I ran into across the weekend. They were down at the semi-final of the NPL Women's, which we'll have a bit of a chat about. But, it's always good when you get the Glory girls kind of come back and support their own and so on and so forth, and the men for that matter. But, great to bump into a few of the girls and Stephen Peters across the weekend. Jaxon, what's been good?
I'll go a similar path with James, and I think the Glory girls have to be the big positive of the weekend. I've got Susan Fonsonkamp in particular, just because it's her first game back from injury. She's missed the whole year. Got the goal, and you could see the way the girls got around her after that. It was a great moment. And even just watching her in the last 10 minutes, she's so good with the ball at her feet, and she's going to be a key part of the last final 5 weeks of the season. I thought Tisha McKenna was amazing as well. And it was her interception that caused the first goal. She nipped in, and then O'Donoghue did the rest. Yeah, it was great. And hopefully they can keep the form at home and also fix up the away form, because that's been the real issue. And they're going to need to win those next 2 away games if they're going to make the finals.
Funny what happens when a press that's coordinated well works off well, like it did for Kelly Brown's goal.
Yeah, who would have thought?
Boys, I'm going to be a little bit greedy. I've grabbed 2 goods this week.
Oh, no.
My first is was the turnout at Preston v South Melbourne in the NPL Victoria, almost 10,000 there. My question would be, can they sustain the hype? Can they? I'm not suggesting they're going to get 9,000 or 10,000 to every game of the NPL Victoria. In fact, they simply won't. But can they start to build up to a 1, 2, 3 crowd? Considering these are 2 sides that are heading into the NSD and create that hype. Yeah.
That should be the question. Why not? I mean, what did Melbourne City get against MacArthur that same night? Was it 3,000?
Yeah.
That's the thing. When you got a club that's got a bit of heritage and a connection,
the
fans will want to get on board with it. And the scenes in that Preston South Melbourne game were outstanding.
Those 2 are massive rivals.
Oh, yeah.
There's the whole Greek Macedonian thing, but I guess just traditionally those 2 clubs and their fan bases, it is the game that you get out for. It's like a derby of all kinds of types. So, but yeah, can they sustain that? I really hope they can heading into the National Second Division, of course, the Australian Championship as it's been monikered. Also, too, I'm really excited because the NPL Men's returns this weekend. So I'm just going to quickly run through some fixtures. Friday night, Bayswater take on Sorrento. Across Saturday is Armidale v Floreat, Western Knights v Red Star, Perth v Balcatta. That one has been moved from the Friday night to the Saturday because the NPL Women's night series final will be on the Friday night. So they've, I'm glad they've given the girls a little bit of clean air there. Perth Glory will take on Fremantle City there, all 3 p.m. kickoffs, and then in the evening, a little bit unfortunately that this one's clashing with the Glory that night, but Olympic Kingsway will take on Stirling. Another traditional game that many get out for as far as derbies go. So, a couple of goods there. I've been a bit greedy. Also, Australia Cup preliminary rounds, round 2, I believe it is. So, state league clubs involved, no NPL clubs involved at this stage, but plenty of football across the weekend for people to get out to, which is a great thing. Carry us on with your bad, mate.
Be a little bit cringe and a little cheesy.
Go.
Crapolade.
Crapolade. Yeah, right.
One win.
Bottled it, mate. Had a big chance to.
They did, but more broadly speaking, one win in their last 7.
This is a team that we were applauding weeks ago.
They've had a fair bit of a stumble.
Tesla, done the Tesla.
Well, as you alluded to at the beginning of the show, Blayne, yes, a bit like Tesla's stocks.
Down the tubes.
Yeah, but you've got to be beating Brisbane at home, especially given how the Auckland game went, where they did well to fight back, but they're just missing that killing edge. And I think there were some questions levelled towards Carl Viet by the Adelaide fans where, is this their limit under Viet? And I think the press conference after where Viet went, there'll be some changes, mate, blah, blah. And he came out quite aggressive and quite harsh, which I can understand, but it's like at some point you've got to take that next step where you can be that side that can get over those little speed bumps that can happen to teams that aspire to be the very best. Like you don't really see, for as much as Auckland did draw against Newcastle, you don't really see teams like Auckland or those Melbourne City sides or Sydney FC over the years that have been very consistent towards the very, very top and rarely drop points. Adelaide's form has been pretty shocking given where they had been and what they could be. So definitely some alarm bells if I am Calviet and the Adelaide team.
Jackson, bad, mate. What's been happening?
Well, Adelaide are at risk of dropping out of the top 6 if this run of form keeps going, but they're not even close to being the worst side in the league in terms of form. There's 5 teams at the moment who are on 5-game winless runs, which is hard to believe, and the one I've picked out is Wellington in particular.
Yeah, because they've bottled it.
Yeah, got beaten comprehensively again by West United on the weekend, and I don't see where it gets any better from them. I mean, they're out of the finals race. I think it's just, at this point, you just got to try and get a few wins just for morale and to get the fans on side, because I think the longer this keeps going on, the more pressure is going to ramp up on Giancarlo Italiano, and he might be available at the end of the year.
We'll see how that goes. I'm going to head overseas for my bad. The bottom 3 of the Premiership or the Premier League, I still call it the Premiership because I'm a bit old school like that, full of culture and everything else. James,
yep.
Have some respect, please. Leicester City, Southampton, and Ipswich, of course. The previous season, the teams that came up went straight back was Burnley, Luton, and Sheffield United. They had a combined total of 66 points. Now, the 3 this year are on track to beat that. Now, what does that say? Are we just in a bit of a lull? Does this suggest that there's a much more of a separation with clubs coming up from the Championship now? Does there need to be extra concessions for teams come up to make sure that they can financially compete? There's a couple of different questions, but to have it 2 years in a row and going backwards,
it's a bit of a concern. I mean, when you're obviously Premier League isn't like obviously the A League in the sense where they've got that equalisation you would think in the salary cap, and there have been calls from various sectors of Europe possibly thinking of a salary cap, but obviously it's very hard for teams to not only get promoted from the Championship but then stay in the Premier League. And I guess maybe you could say this year has been an outlier in general. I mean, who would have thought at the start of the season that teams like Nottingham or Bournemouth would be towards the top 4 or top 6?
Yep.
So maybe that could be it, but I guess
maybe
we need a bit more of a sample size, but definitely there are a fair amount of concerns in relation to the teams that come up and go back down very quickly.
Yeah, we won't mention Leeds this week, boys.
Fingers crossed.
After their shocking loss to Portsmouth in the week. But anyway, that is, I think it was an 18-game unbeaten run that came to an end against Portsmouth. So looking over our shoulder now as far as Burnley and Sheffield United. Ugly, James?
Well, it was sort of touched on by Jackson, but I want to touch on Wellington and Mariners fall off. I think it's been quite ugly given the way in which both teams performed last season, and they were exceptional. In particular Wellington, because most people thought that they were going to be towards the very bottom, wooden spoon. Yet they found a way to finish second, I'm pretty sure, and they were a couple of points away from being at the very top, and Mariners obviously won the treble. Yet Wellington, I think, for me, have been the biggest concern, because I think there have been a lot of calls from Wellington fans over what is our style of play and is it attractive? Do we want to move forward with it? It can be quite ugly to watch Wellington games, I would argue, because Italiano is all about trying to get effective chances created rather than just having lots and lots and lots and lots of chances created. And I guess there is the question of, well, the first season was maybe a bit of an outlier or a blip, so to speak, and the fact that he has lost a lot of players, key players, but there has been the question of whether he can evolve Wellington. And the fact that he is out of contract and that there are some Wellington fans who've gone, well, the nature of our losses suggests that a lot of people have checked out, and is Italiano the one to take them forward? That's definitely a big question that should be asked, given that he is out of contract. So
I'm going to bring it back to, I guess, a little bit of what's happening at Perth Glory at the moment, and I might even just throw a little bit of an Ange Postecoglou reference in there as well about coaches having to be a little bit more versatile in their approach. The A-League is one that you are likely to turn over a lot of players every 1 to 2 years. If you can't get those players to come in and play your style, we've seen it with David Zrilic. You've got to be adaptable.
Well, we're not Europe.
To play. Well,
which sucks in the sense of time that you can be afforded and the stability of squads.
But I guess the salary cap plays a huge role in that. You can only keep players for so long before the salary cap hits, and you have to start offloading.
And the turnover is ridiculous.
That's just the nature of the beast, unfortunately. So when you look at pragmatic coaches, I think for the A-League, they often suit a little bit better rather than someone who's staunch and can't get the players to fit that style.
Right now, you've got Steve Corica and you've got John Aloisi.
Pretty pragmatic.
They don't play sexy football, but I mean, it's rare in the A-League, I would argue, for coaches to play sexy football from round 1 to round 27 and finish top of the table or win the whole thing altogether.
Yeah. Where are we up to? Ugly Jackson.
I shouldn't have mentioned his name, but I'm going to make this a once-off, and that's Joey Barton. I could name 1,000.
What's he done now is the first thing that's come to my mind.
What this stems from is probably the biggest match this weekend was the Sidemen charity match. I don't know if you're across this.
Yeah.
Down at Wembley, 90,000 sold out, 8 million viewers on YouTube. They raised £5 million for charity.
Whose legs did he break?
It was just more, he wasn't in it, thank God.
Oh, okay.
It was just more, he tweeted out, and he used words like the retard bowl and El Spastico. His whole argument was like how they're letting these YouTubers run around a week before the Carabao Cup final.
Yeah.
And, I mean, just get a life, Joey, please. I mean, £5 million for charity. If that's what more good has to come for him to see a positive, and he always just sees a negative in everything.
Yeah.
And I know he's a bit of a despicable human being, but just do better. Do better, Joey.
He's I've got to admit, those kinds of things don't really appeal to me. I mean, it's great that it's going to charity and everything else, but I mean, I'd rather go watch Sunday League if I'm going to go see some hacks out in the field,
Yeah, I mean, that's
no
fair.
offense to anyone who plays Sunday League, James, but O'Neill.
No, that's raging in the comments.
That's fair, but there was more good than bad that came out of that match. And yes, you can laugh at the quality, but they're not going to be great because they're YouTubers. But
doesn't matter; they still sold it out.
Yeah. It was, great cause as well.
No, fair enough. My ugly, it hasn't happened yet, but it could be the crowd this weekend. Local football's back. I just mentioned the NPL fixtures. That's happening in the afternoon. Are people going to go to the NPL and go straight to the Glory? I'm unsure. Australia Cup's going on. There's some teams that'll have to travel away. Aussie Rules, NRL's started. And we've got Perth v Brisbane, probably the two worst teams in the A-League for the last 5 years.
But it's the free-to-air game, I think, this week.
Does that make people stay at home?
Probably.
I don't know, but it could be ugly.
Well, we've only got Brisbane and Adelaide as our last 2 home games.
That's it, yeah. So, we'll see how that goes. Boys, there we go. We are a quarter of an hour in. We might take a very, very quick break. After this, we're going to turn it into a little bit of a fan zone. We're going to be speaking to Kim Hawkins. She is the chair of the Glory Fans Representative Group, and we'll do it after these messages. You are on the Far Post Perth Podcast.
Tired of the same old cookie-cutter home designs? Dreaming of a space that truly reflects you? Then it's time to talk to the team at Trio Homes. Whether you're looking to build your dream home, redesign your current space, or simply renovate, Trio Homes is committed to unique designs, local personalised service and quality workmanship. And with former Perth Glory star Dino Julbich at the helm, you'll know you're getting passion and dedication built into every project. Discover the difference with Trio Homes. Visit triohomes.com.au.
What a run! This could be the one! It's in! That's what it's all about! And when it comes to sports gear that helps you perform your best, ID Athletic has the winning formula. From grassroots clubs to elite athletes, ID Athletic provides high-quality sporting apparel, screen printing, embroidery, and made-to-order promotional products. Proud sponsors of the Far Post Perth and passionate supporters of WA community sport. Visit ID Athletic at 84 Howe Street, Osborne Park, or online at idathletic.com. ID Athletic. Build your identity.
Welcome back to the Far Post Perth Podcast. A big thank you to ID Athletic and, of course, Trio Homes. Gentlemen, as I said, we're going to turn this into a little bit of a fan zone. There's plenty happening on the field, but there's plenty happening on the other side of the fence as well. And I thought we might just have a bit of a chat this week about what's happening on the other side of the fence, some of the initiatives, some of the concerns, some of the issues that are ongoing. We've been on and off with a few issues this season, but I thought we'd welcome Kim Hawkins. She is the chair of the Glory Fans Representative Group. Kim, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
No worries. Thanks for giving us a little bit of time. Now, I guess I reached out to you just to give people a bit of a background. I reached out to you in the week because the Glory Fan Representative Group started to put a little bit out there on social media. So I thought what we wanted to do is just, I guess, give it a little bit of time, give it a little bit of a conversation, and maybe let people know what it's all about, how they can get involved, and some of the issues that you're facing. So I guess first of all, what is the FRG or the Fan Representative Group, and what's its function, if you like?
Yeah, no, that's a good question to start off. So the APL put together a fan engagement sort of strategy, and they wanted a fan rep group from each club. So Perth Glory put out, expressions of interest, and then had a good number of people apply. We were the lucky people that got selected as part of the Glory 10, the inaugural group. So our role really is to represent the fans to the APL, but to the club as well. So there's terms of reference that are in place from the APL, and then we have adapted our own for our club, and those have been shared. And each club has their own group. They run it how they sort of want to run it. We've got one club that calls theirs the member representative group. So all of their committee are actual members. And we meet monthly. We meet with the club. We're very involved with the club. We have a chat group that we engage with the club as well. And as the chair, I'm also part of a chairs group, so every chair comes together and we meet with the APL.
So reps from each club come together.
Yep. Every chairperson, Auckland's just joined, which has been great, and we can raise issues directly to the APL, and they can also share information with us. So, yeah, it's been really good.
So it's very much in its infancy stages, isn't it?
Sure.
Because it only started, 12
months ago.
12 months ago? Okay,
yeah,
so we're still in the early days. How's it progressing, do you feel? Where are we at as far as really kind of getting these conversations happening, I guess, and then some of these issues resolved, I guess, ultimately?
Yeah, I mean, initially we were using personal accounts on social media to share information, and then we sort of avoided for a while trying to set up a page that we'd have to manage and moderate, but it got quite busy, and so we decided to set up a Facebook page, which is what you've probably all seen and you share, which we're very grateful for. So we'd love some more people following our page and putting comments. So we get messages. So we've done things like where there's been security issues, where there's been storage issues. We have an little active chat group as well, and we're really keen to set up a subgroup of active reps, because we feel they're such an important part of the club, and we want to hear from them and support them as well. So we've got all these different groups going on. Once we developed the terms of reference and we sort of understood what our role was and how we fit in, with the club and also nationally, we worked on developing a plan. So Blayne knows me well. I love a good plan. But, it helps us set direction about what our focus is. But, the club have been so supportive of all of us. We ask the hard questions. It hasn't been a great season. We've had a lot of turmoil last year, with ownership and things like that. And, I think now we're starting to really get some traction on some of the things that we've done. We've had messages about, why aren't the women's fixtures on the Sam Kerr site, stuff like that. So, where can we store this when we're at the game? So, we've been really happy.
So I guess a nice little link between the fans and the club, I guess, and
and we're
opening those communication lines.
Yeah. So we've also set up an email, so people can email us directly, which we do get the odd email. But we've really focused on developing that match day experience. What we heard, we did a survey last year, because there's no point us sitting around and saying this is what we think people want.
Sure.
So we did a survey and we got some very good results and feedback there. And, that whole match day experience is something that people really talk about.
How would the FRG assess the match day experience? Obviously, the performances on the pitch haven't been too good, but in the sense of seeking the feedback from last season and how it's been implemented for this season, if any or much of it has been, how would you guys assess the overall match day experience and how it's gone?
So this year and recently, the club have contacted every member. So everyone's been phoned. We've asked for that feedback. So whatever has come through, the club are quite willing to share with us, so we can see, okay, how are people feeling about some of the things that we've raised. We're focused too on seeing if we can get some traction and ideas around a club song. That's something that has come through, in a number of ways, and so we're really keen to see if we can get some sort of club song happening in the future.
Well, the old Steve Armstrong days, but I guess the times have changed since the old Steve Armstrong days.
They have.
And, there's a women's team involved now, and we've just, I guess we've got to evolve from...
Yeah.
There'd definitely be an appeal for it, because I think there has been a lot of questions, and I imagine they would have been directed to you, Kim, or people from the FRG, in the sense of what is our identity?
Yeah, I mean, we hear a lot, we want it like the old days. Okay, well, tell us, what does that look like? What does it mean for you? I mean, I used to take my children when they were young. My dad would come along. Now I take my granddaughter, and that's the sort of legacy that I think people want to leave and is important to people too. And so we want a club for everybody at the end of the day. You want it for the families, you want the active support, you want that passion, and I feel we're getting there. I really do.
As far as, I guess, just bringing it back to where the club is at, do you feel some of the issues are exacerbated because the team's not performing so great, or because there's other things going on in the background as the ownership kind of settles in and gets their feet under the desk? Is that a fair assumption?
I think so. I mean, when there's a bit of turmoil at the top, and we know that we lacked owners for a while, that impacts on everybody. But I feel we're turning a corner. It's been slow, I know. The results haven't been what we wanted with the men. But I really feel that we should be optimistic about where we're heading. We've had meetings with Stan. We've had, a meeting with David. Anthony, as the CEO, engages with us pretty regularly. We had a very open and frank conversation with him last month. And it's really great that they take the time to sit and listen.
Do you mind if I ask why you feel we're on the right track based on those meetings?
Well, I feel that there's a vision that's in place. I mean, last year, I don't think we knew where we were going. I feel now that there will get some traction on, relationships with government. We know were challenging in the past.
Yep.
I feel now that some of those are getting stronger and stronger. I just feel like things are more settled, and so does the FRG. But it's going to take time. I mean, this is a business. It takes time.
Yeah. I was going to ask a little bit more about the active situation. We've seen some incidents on both sides where probably not where the active wants to be at the moment as far as what they can do. It seems like it's been an ongoing issue for years. I don't think it's not isolated to Perth. Active area issues have been going on, Kim, as you'd know, across the country. Where are we at in regards to how not only the club but the stadium management and everything else deals with some of the issues that are certain to arise in the active area? People have a drink in there, they have a good time, there's plenty of energy. Maybe someone could step out of line every now and then, but I don't always feel, and I think many would agree, that these situations are dealt with in the right manner or in the right context a lot of the time.
Yeah, I think that's very fair, absolutely. I mean, we've seen some things nationally that are a little bit alarming. We had a extraordinary meeting with the APL 2 weeks ago to talk about security, to talk about the what's being shown at games as well, on the screens. That was an issue that's come through. Football Australia are putting together a security task force. Now, I've been arguing very, very strongly that they need active representation on that group, that it shouldn't be a bunch of people sitting around in a boardroom making decisions, that you need active reps there to talk about what active support looks like. I've got to say, Venues West have been very supportive. I've got a direct line to the general manager, Brendan. He's been great. And between him and Alyssa at Glory, if there's ever any issues, I can get on to them. If people let me know, of course. If I don't know, then there's not much we can do. But we really want to get this active subgroup going so that we can, members of the FRG can meet with them and say, right, what's going on? What are those issues? We know that people have been kicked out over little things. How can we better address some of these issues? We've asked, can we be involved in security training, which is, that's a bit of a challenge in itself. But we really want to try and promote that this is what active support looks like.
Supporter marshals has been a topic of discussion. It works very, very well in some areas, to the point that I know Melbourne Victories and I think Western Sydney Wanderers supporter marshals actually travel with the away fans. It's almost like a chaperone. They all know each other by first name, everything else like that. If little Johnny starts to play up, Marshall comes over and says, hey, mate, come on, just settle it down. That's the end of it. Doesn't need any security intervention. It's like the stewards of the old football,
absolutely.
In England, and then it's escalated from there in case there's a serious incident. Are we anywhere down that path as far as supporter marshals that maybe can be implemented in the shed or in the home end? And it's difficult, I get it, because there's the two different sections rather than just one terrace.
I mean, some of the feedback that we got was around the fan marshal concept, so we've been calling it the fan marshal.
Sure.
We've been talking to the club about that. We've put together a bit of a position description. I've talked to some of the active reps in the chat group that we have, but we really want to get that out wider because it needs to be, come from within. You can't just throw anybody into a fan marshal role. We really want to engage with those active reps so that we can talk to them about, okay, who would be a good person to do this? And we do see a bit of it happening already at the game, like informally.
Yeah.
And
I guess like self-policing, is that where you...
Yeah. I mean, I can be at a game and I get a message going, are you here because this is happening? So, or, one of the other FRG members. And we go over and we try and help where we can. But, a lot of us aren't sitting in the active area. We might be in the family stand or the general admission, all over the place. So... But an FRG member is always there to help. There's always someone there, always.
And I guess I'll throw it to Jackson in a quick second because I know he's itching to ask you a question, Kim.
Uh-oh.
They're the ones you've got to watch out for. I guess it's important to also note, and I want to emphasise this, that you guys are volunteers as well.
Yeah.
And you don't get paid for this. It's something that is out of the passion that you want to see the Glory flourish. You want to see the active support as loud as it possibly can be, and you want to see everyone get home safe.
Yep,
Is that-
absolutely.
yep,
Yeah. Like I said earlier, we hear about we want the glory of the old days. Well, then help us get there. What do you want? We're volunteers, as you say. We meet monthly, alternate months face-to-face, and then sometimes, Anthony might join us, and we've had David join us. And then the other month we meet online. And between that, we're doing other things like developing our plan and strategy. I'm meeting with the APL. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of chat groups.
There is a lot.
As you know, Blayne.
I just wanted to have a quick question about the active supporter group, the working group that's getting organised. I'm just interested in the makeup and how many reps you want to get in total, and whether it's going to be a mix between like the shed and the bay. And then just following on from that, do you see a possibility where the shed and the bay can all unite as one, or is it all just about making sure that they can coexist and that they're united as possible?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. As you know, we've got the shed president on the FRG in David, and we engage with the actives, and I know David met with them recently to help them through some challenges. It needs to come from them. The FRG aren't here about dictating this is how this subgroup would work. It's about, right, let's get together. How will it work for you? How, in terms of your active group, do we bring everyone together? I think at the moment when you're at a game, it is quite cohesive, I feel, singing the same songs and, the same active support. So it has to come from them. That's why we need to meet with them and get a group going.
Kim, while we're on that subject, I wanted to talk about the question that's been asked for years, but it's something that you've really kind of put some time and effort and into trying to get answers and understanding, and that is the way football fans are treated as far as the under-18s in the shed compared to, say, a Western Force game or a concert or whatever it might be. Do we have any answers why that is the case, and how that's not discrimination or any other, kind of context as far as that goes?
Yeah, I mean, we've had meetings with the club, with Venues West. There were new vendors coming in, and so there's some old rules there. We did follow it up again very recently, and there is some movement. We surveyed the fans to see what they thought, and it was a resounding yes, lower the age. Now, we're not suggesting by any means that we follow Western Force and put 4-year-olds in there. That would just be ridiculous. But there is an appetite to reduce the age a little bit. Now, when we talk about the old restrictions, from the old days around alcohol, and we know now that you can pretty much have alcohol across the whole stadium. So there's no argument. We have followed it up again in the last 2 weeks. And hopefully with new vendors coming in, we'll see some movement there. They're well across it. Alyssa at the club has been very supportive. Brendan, they know that this is something that's important to fans. We also wrote to the minister when we heard that the stadium...
Rita Saffioti, was it?
No,
or,
to
David
Templeman.
Yep,
we wrote to him to say we hear that there's a chance that the ground's going to be redeveloped. That shed's important. It's historical. So if you are going down this path, you need to talk to the fans.
Yeah. I think that's a fair comment.
I sort of want to take a bit more of a backward step and a bit broader spectrum. Obviously, the FRG's had dialogue with the club before, and I understand that this might not be a necessarily popular take. But do you think the club should release a strategic plan to help give that sense of a vision and what is being worked towards, in the sense that fans can get on board with what is trying to be built with the new ownership group in collaboration with the FRG and all the various different parts of the club?
Absolutely. Yeah. And they are. And, Anthony has talked to us about that plan. When the new owners have come in, as you guys know, because you were in the room with me, we heard a little bit about what that vision is. And I think it's important to get that documented and out there so that people know where the club's going and what does the future look like. It will come, but there's been a lot of work going on behind the scenes. I mean, we're not across everything. We don't get privy to information that, other fans don't get, if you know what I mean. So we are confident that there will be something released. And we've got a members forum that we've been pushing for as well. So that's going to happen before the end of the season. We've had that agreed to. And hopefully there we'll start to have some of that clearly articulated. But no, I agree. You need to know where you're going. Absolutely.
And I guess what would be, for you being the chairperson of the FRG, what would be the long-term goal for the FRG to try and achieve for the club moving forward? I get that's a bit of a broad and a vague question, but I guess you can take whatever angle you'd like with it if you'd like.
I mean, for us, it's about raising the profile of the club, getting members back, getting people signing up to be members, bringing their families along. Filling the stadium is really our goal, making a very strong, active, and I think that's what people are talking about when they talk about the old days, you know, when the stadium was rocking and it was a real fortress and, you know, people dreaded coming here. That's our goal, and, you know, that's in our plan, which we'll be putting out publicly. You know, is to support the club's growth, and so we will try and help where we can to grow the club. We want a vision. We want to be very clear. I mean, the club has the strategic pillars that they've identified, and our plan is around those strategic pillars. So we're all working cohesively. Yep.
Just back on some of the I guess the Facebook comments and the rhetoric. I think people are well intentioned, but I think there's almost a bit of a sense that, you know, things take time, I guess, as far as I'm going. Are things taking too long? Are things moving and progressing the way that you'd like, Kim?
I would say so. I mean, like I said, it's a new business.
Sure.
And I've sat on boards, I've sat on committees, and things do take time when you've got new ownership, when you've got to rebuild relationships. It all takes time. We're just one part of the bigger picture.
Sure.
You know, one cog in the wheel, I suppose. But I think that long term, you know, this club's going to be great again. It really will. We've just got to get behind the club. We've got to support the club. We've got to support the players. You know, if they're reading those comments, how do you think they feel? I mean, I wouldn't want someone writing that about me at work.
But do you also feel there is that room, though, for the sense of accountability, given that the club hasn't really been where it needs to be? And obviously there has been the ownership change, but with the A-League men's program in particular, I believe this number is correct, but since Tony Popovich has left the club, Perth Glory have only won 21.6% of their total A-League games.
Yeah.
So I guess fans are frustrated with the fact that, especially in the NSL, Jackson and I didn't really get to experience that. I was born literally months after we
don't
won
rub it in.
the last ever championship. So we've not been able
these young pups, Kim.
we've not been able to see the club
for sure.
at its peak. And I guess there's obviously that fine line of, okay, there's constructive criticism and then there's stepping over the line. But there's, I guess in that same vein, there is that sense of, well, the club has to have a little bit of accountability because they shouldn't be accepting being in the bottom two or the bottom four, so to speak.
No, well, they don't accept it. I mean, they know that there's work to be done, you know, but people have got to get behind their club. I'm a West Ham supporter as well, so I know what it's like to be, you know, up there and then suddenly not up there anymore. But you stick by. So, you know, people can complain all they like and, you know, that's fine. We're all armchair critics. We're all experts. But if you're complaining about the work of the FRG, tell us what you want us to do. Because I've asked that question and I'll tell you what, I don't get many responses. You know the email address. People know my personal contact details. Absolutely. Reach out. And, you know, people do and we're quite happy to respond. But, you know, what I won't tolerate is some of the criticism of this group because we work really hard. And I think that's really unwarranted and unfair. And we don't share everything we do because there's so much going on all the time. But people only need to reach out and tell us, you know, this isn't working. Can you help me with this? And that's what we do.
Going away from the club and thinking more about the league in general, you and the other fan groups have had chats with the APL. Have you been happy with your dialogue with them? And do you think they're taking on board some of the feedback that you guys have been giving them and implementing it going forward?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we came in with the whole Unite Round debacle. But it was too late. We couldn't really do much other than talk about why, you know, this shouldn't have happened. But they do come to us and say, you know, we need some feedback about this particular topic. Or if we've got some issues as a group, we can put it to the APL. But they really use us. I mean, they're developing their strategy at the moment. And generally they really do listen and take things on board. But we just get to know people and then they tend to move off. And that's been really difficult. There's a new, obviously, executive director in Stephen Conroy. So we've requested a meeting with him. You know, and I think having a group of chairs that do collaborate a fair bit, we can talk about those common issues. So security is probably one of the biggest that has come up, and we're pushing for this task force.
Full disclaimer, Kim, for everyone. Of course, we both sit on the committee for the Football Supporters Association of Australia, which is separate to the FRG. But I guess just as far as the FRG goes, how do you ensure and I guess make sure that you're not perceived as just a PR arm of the club or of the APL, and that you do kind of, you know, you are staying firmly in that fan camp and representing solely the views of the fans or the concerns of the fans? It's a tough line to kind of grasp at times. It
is a tough line, but we're quite open to asking the hard questions, which is what we've done. You know, we've gone to the club and they've been extremely responsive about a members forum, because people are telling us they want a forum where they can listen to David, they can listen to Stan, perhaps listen to Anthony about what some of these issues are. So we've really pushed for that. So when, you know, if people think that we're the mouthpiece of the club, that's not right.
Sure.
We're an independent group, if you like. Yep. We're about having a plan, having direction, having our own strategy that's very clear around the fans. We don't get involved in player decisions, discussions or any of that. We often will say our piece, but that's like any fan. But we've got our own plan and strategy, and that's what we're focused on.
What does the next 12 months look like for the FRGs? And I guess you've mentioned the fan forum there. What are some of the things and initiatives that we should look out for? So obviously the members forum is probably one of the priorities that people want. The shed, you know, some sort of resolution on the shed, that's another issue that we've sort of encountered recently. We want to make sure that we get the active representation happening in a way that's a bit more structured than at the moment. It's quite just ad hoc, but we want an actual structure around that. The fan marshal is another strategy. But we're very, very focused on security, getting this, you know, being part of the task force that Football Australia are putting together. We've got our direction. We'll happily share that. But it's all about, our first objective is enhancing the fan experience, and that's what we want to do. Very, very good. Well, we might let you go, Kim, because you've given us plenty of insight and plenty of information and plenty of food for thought. Just a quick one. How can people get in touch? You mentioned the Facebook page, email address, so on and so forth.
Yeah, just look up the Perth Glory Fan Representative Group. You'll find us on Facebook. Send a message to me.
Is there a page on the Perth Glory website as well?
Might be linked on there. I'll have a look.
Yep.
Good question.
Might be an easy go-to.
Yeah. But all our profiles are on the page, and you know the club have been extremely supportive of the group, even though it was sort of, I suppose you could say, mandated across the APL in terms of the clubs. But we've been really fortunate. We really have, and we're here. We want to hear people's points of view. We want to listen, and we want people to be optimistic and stick with us.
Beautiful. Thanks very much for all your hard work.
Tired of the same old cookie-cutter home designs? Dreaming of a space that truly reflects you? Then it's time to talk to the team at Trio Homes. Whether you're looking to build your dream home, redesign your current space, or simply renovate, Trio Homes is committed to unique designs, local personalised service and quality workmanship. And with former Perth Glory star Dino Julbich at the helm, you'll know you're getting passion and dedication built into every project. Discover the difference with Trio Homes. Visit triohomes.com.au.
What a run! This could be the one! It's in! That's what it's all about! And when it comes to sports gear that helps you perform your best, ID Athletic has the winning formula. From grassroots clubs to elite athletes, ID Athletic provides high-quality sporting apparel, screen printing, embroidery, and made-to-order promotional products. Proud sponsors of the Far Post Perth and passionate supporters of WA community sport. Visit ID Athletic at 84 Howe Street, Osborne Park, or online at idathletic.com. ID Athletic. Build your identity.
Welcome back to the Far Post Perth. Big thank you to Kim Hawkins and gents. Great to have Kim and give us a little bit of insight. They've copped a little bit of stick this week, so I thought it was only, the right thing to do
100%.
to get Kim and just have a little bit of a look at what they're actually trying to do. And as I said, it's really important to note that these people are volunteers. These people don't get paid for this. Like, they don't get paid to cop crap on social media either. So
and that's the thing, they're there to help.
Yeah,
that's their fundamental role.
Yeah,
and with there being fans, it's by the fans for the fans. So
correct.
I think it's great what they're doing.
Yeah, beauty. Let's have a bit of a look ahead. In fact, let's look backwards first. Round 22, of course, no Perth Glory involved, no Perth Glory men involved across the weekend. We saw a 2-0 win for Melbourne City over Macarthur. 1-1 between Adelaide and Brisbane. Western United beat Wellington 4-1. Melbourne victory smacked Central Coast 3-0. And a plucky Newcastle, James Renton. They've been your flavour of the month, picking up a draw with Auckland.
Yeah, this is why I criticise the Glory, because obviously I know we're in a unique situation. You can't, condense it and say, well, because Newcastle are doing well, therefore Glory are doing well. But Newcastle only finished, I think, 6 points above Glory last season, and yet in these last 6 or 7 games, they've shown that they can compete and they can get results. Yeah. And they've got the team buying into a project. They've got the team fully committed, and the fans are loving it. And obviously they were unfortunate to not get more from their game against Auckland, but they can come away from that game going, you know what, if we add a few more quality players and have a bit more time, there's every chance that we can beat Auckland. Meanwhile, if you're going to contextualise it for Perth Glory situation, it's like, how are we going to score a goal? Yeah. How are we going to win a game? So, I think Newcastle will come away from that game and heading into their game, I think it's tomorrow today when it gets released, against Melbourne City.
Correct. That is a round 14 replay.
I think they'll fancy themselves.
Yep. Yeah, I can't see why they wouldn't go down there and think they can pick up some points and then come home against Western United, who's flying, and
be another good game.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to that. Plenty happening on a local level as well across the weekend. Jackson State League and NPLWA Night Series finals. Kingsley Westside, they beat Mandurah, finished 0-0, but they got the win on penalties. So, very well done by Kingsley Westside after they got promoted up to State League 1. And also, Stirling went down 1-0 to Sorrento. Obviously, Sorrento coming into the NPL. So the two promoted sides over the last couple of years, getting the chocolates.
Yeah, I guess it shows the strength of the State League.
Yep.
And I'll be interested to see where Sorrento can finish in the NPL this year, because I think they've got enough to be in the middle or closer to the top.
Really interesting side, of course, coached by Steve McGarry and Neil Kilkenny involved there. But Andrew Moranta had a belter. He won man of the match on the player of the match on the weekend for his goal. Also Dean Cummings, of course. So plenty of names getting around there for Sorrento. Really looking forward to this weekend. Friday night NPLW Night Series final. Perth SC against Balcatta. That is happening Friday night at the Sam Kerr Football Centre. So if you want something to do, get out and support the girls on the Friday night. And then, of course, I mentioned a little bit earlier on, you'll have the NPL Round 1 men's kicking off across the weekend.
It's all happening.
It is all happening. Australia Cup as well, Round 2. And, plenty going on. Let's have a look ahead let's have a look at the A-League Women's to begin with, actually. We've got Western United against Canberra, Central Coast against Perth. That is happening on Friday night at about 4 p.m. Western Australian time. So you'll have to skip home from work or school or whatever it might be to be able to catch that one. On the Saturday, Western Sydney against Melbourne Victory. That's a double header with the men's, as I understand it. Sydney will take on Wellington, Melbourne City against Adelaide United, and Brisbane against Newcastle.
Why not? For the girls getting a win over Mariners, especially given Mariners have lost their last 3.
Yeah.
Hopefully, because correct me if I'm wrong, Jackson, but I'm pretty sure they haven't won away this season.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. Well, this will be a great chance.
The Glory girls haven't won away? Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
And it'd be a great opportunity because their home form has been fairly solid, all things considered.
Yeah.
And I think if they can build on that performance and get a bit more consistency, they do have some winnable games.
Yep.
So you never know.
Yeah. We'll see how it all goes.
They couldn't have really asked for a better run home. I mean, okay, they've got Melbourne City in the last round, but then
3 games to go?
5 games left.
5 games.
3 at home.
Sorry. Yeah.
But the next 4, they play Central Coast and Canberra, who are 6 and 7.
And Sydney.
And they play Sydney and Western Sydney, who are the bottom 2. So you've got the 2 worst
Cash
teams
in.
2 worst teams in the comp on the ladder, and then you've got the 2 sides who are just above them and are in the final spots.
Hoping all those teams have put the queue in the rack, I guess. So,
Fingers crossed.
see how they go. A-League Men's, of course, you did mention the Wednesday night. That is a Melbourne City Newcastle game, round 14 replay. On the Friday is the round 23. The first game starts with Adelaide v Macarthur. Tips, James?
Adelaide to bounce back. I'm not really convinced by Macarthur.
Yeah, I can't see Macarthur getting a result.
Yeah, Adelaide for me as well. Saturday, Western Sydney against Melbourne Victory. This is an interesting one. Wanderers on a little bit of a run. Melbourne Victory, are they the real deal? They have to win this for me to really have them in the window.
I want to say draw, but Stadger's got Western Sydney humming from an attacking perspective. And Melbourne Victory, again, I'm not really convinced. I mean, 1 minute they're great, the next minute they're a bit... Yeah. So their lack of consistency and the fact that the Wanderers have been building their performances, especially from an attacking and then also from a defensive perspective, they're not conceding as much. So I'm anticipating Wanderers to get the job done in front of a boisterous crowd, hopefully.
All right. Saturday, Perth v Brisbane. Boys, give us your thoughts on this. What are we looking for, Jackson?
I think plan should be just to try and knuckle down defensively after that shambolic display last time. I mean, both games we won this year have been 1-0, so if we're going to get it done, I think
does the break help or hinder?
I think it'll help.
Okay.
Just get the bodies and the minds refreshed, and go into the last 6 games and with a real positive attitude, because last season ended horrifically, and tools were down very with a long way to go. But I think this season very important that they finish well, especially for David Driller.
Yeah, they got to get. Zrilla has to get a win for me. Has to beat Brisbane, and has to try and build moving forward some compelling evidence, because for as much as we can quite clearly say that there is a long-term plan, in the short term you have to show signs of life. And if you can't beat a Brisbane Roar side that have couldn't find their backside with a map and a flashlight this season,
that is brilliant.
Again?
That is brilliant.
Couldn't find their backside with their map or a flashlight.
That's excellent.
So we got to be beating them. Give the fans something to say. Well,
you surprise me some days, James.
Oh, that's all right. I do that sometimes, Blayne. But I'm saying, show us something. Show me some evidence. I said that last week. I'm done with Zrilla. You can win me back if you can show something in these last few games where I can say, okay, now we're building. Now you're showing.
Come back.
Yeah, I know. Now you're showing me something. Shut me up. Say this idiot on Far Post doesn't know what he's talking about. Put in a big performance, and that's for the players also, because they were good for about 5 minutes against Western Sydney.
Yeah.
And then got on the first flight home, albeit it was delayed or had a bit of problems in the air.
Yeah.
But the point is that they weren't there for the rest of the game. So there has to be a full performance, maximum intensity, maximum aggression, and smash Brisbane. It's Ruben. He's coming back. Go and beat him. Send him home crying after losing 3 or 4-0 at HBF Park.
Auckland v Central Coast, boys. A win here really starts to move Auckland closer to a hand almost on the trophy.
Could be a potential bloodbath.
You reckon?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. See how that one goes, James. Jackson?
Yeah, similar lines. I think Auckland win this at a canter.
Yep. Newcastle Western United on the Sunday?
Draw.
Draw. All right.
Yeah, it stinks of a draw.
Entertaining draw.
And Sydney FC host Wellington last game of the round.
Similar to the Auckland Mariners game, I think this could be a very tough 90 minutes for Wellington.
All right.
Depends which Sydney show up. But the way Wellington are going at the moment, I think Sydney will have enough to get it done.
I'm going to give a shout out to Sydney FC because they're keeping the Asian coefficient alive as far as the Australians go. I'm not a huge fan normally of Sydney FC.
I feel pretty dirty saying
I
that.
do, but they are keeping the coefficient alive. So, well done to Sydney for their exploits in the Asian Champions
League
2. It is 2, isn't it? Yeah. The AFC Cup, I knew what that was, and it just confuses me.
Too many competitions. Just call it Europa League.
I'm old and everything else. It's just get confused easily. Boys, let's wrap up. Nonsense predictions, final thoughts.
Bold call, Alex Grant returns or makes his first start for the Socceroos. I reckon he gets included in the squad.
Is that right?
That's what I feel.
Congratulations to Nathaniel Blair, who's made his way
and Ollie Sale also.
And Ollie Sale, yeah. Hey, what's Chris Donnell got to do to get into the under-23s?
No idea.
Fulham under 21's captain or reserves captain.
Should be there. Should be
I'm
getting
a big fan of Chris. Yeah.
Maybe we should go like Grasshoppers or something. Everyone could just go and just try break out, but I don't know.
Go there.
Because you think that, I mean, I'm going a bit off tangent,
That's all right.
but you think that Premier League reserves would be a lot higher standard than what A-League would.
Perhaps.
But yet
I get-
28 of that is 2019.
It doesn't really get that sort of coverage.
No,
I
it
guess.
doesn't. It
So-
doesn't. But you'd think that he'd.
Oh,
I don't know,
you would think that, yeah.
21-year-old.
But then you could also say, what's Segacic doing when he should be probably in the Socceroos squad?
Yeah, that's true.
Isn't Mo Torre also in the?
Yeah,
under 20?
they're both in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Both probably had a fair case to make the Socceroos squad.
Yep.
Pending what gets confirmed by Popper, obviously.
Yeah. All right. We'll see how we go. Nonsense prediction, Jackson.
Well, I spoke into his existence last week, so I'll try and do it again and say Glory Girls get the first away win of the season.
Woohoo!
Bring it on.
Here we go. All right, let's wrap things up there. Big thank you to Kim Hawkins, who joined us a little bit earlier on. Don't forget to tell all your friends about the Far Post Perth podcast, available now on Spotify, on Apple, on YouTube Music. A big thank you, as always, to ID Athletic and Trio Homes. And, we'll catch you this time next Tuesday for more. You've been on the Far Post Perth podcast.